So permanent revolution, right? We just understood the idea of dialectics of Mao. Now let's understand his idea of permanent revolution. This was the second modification that Mao did in ideas of Marx. In Marxist understanding of history, we see when contradictions of capitalism are on their peak, there is going to be a spontaneous revolution. After revolution, there is going to be a dictatorship of proletariat, and state will eventually wither away, creating a stateless, classless society that we call communism. Which means there is going to be only one revolution, and after revolution, there is going to be dictatorship of proletariat. In in opposition to this, this, Mao gives his idea of permanent revolution. What does permanent revolution mean? ठीक है, अभी मार्क्स का जो अजम्पशन है अबाउट रिवॉल्यूशन, विच इज देयर इज गोइंग टू बी वन रिवॉल्यूशन होने के बाद जो पूरा सोसाइटी रहेगा, विच विल बी ऑफ द व्यू दैट communism is the best form of economy, communism is the best form of state, right? So अभी सप्रेस मतलब पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को सप्रेस करने का कोई मतलब नहीं है, ऐसा बोलता है मार्क्स। क्योंकि अभी पावर तो किसके पास है? कोर्स के पास है, प्रोलेटरिएट के पास है, राइट? एक बार पावर प्रोलेटरिएट के पास आ गई, तो मार्क्स सेज there is not much importance that should be given the bourgeoisie ideas that remained, ठीक है? On the other hand, Mao says या फिर Mao observes there should be permanent revolution to suppress reactionary bourgeoisie elements, ठीक है? Permanent revolution, a revolution that is in permanence to suppress reactionary bourgeoisie elements, ठीक है? he wanted he wanted that there should be only one idea life, one ideology. He wanted only one ideology have to have hegemony in Chinese mind, which was communism, right? So he wanted to be done away with all the other ideas that was there in Chinese society. That is why he says there should be a permanent revolution, ठीक है? Suppress reactionary bourgeoisie elements. There should be permanent revolution. This permanent revolution he calls to be a cultural revolution. A cultural revolution, right? कल्चरल रिवॉल्यूशन का मतलब क्या है? इट इज परमानेंट रिवॉल्यूशन ओनली। अभी हुआ ऐसा, कल्चरल रिवॉल्यूशन का जो बैकग्राउंड है वाज लाइक दिस। सो आफ्टर कमिंग टू पावर he launched he launched he launched a change in economic system which is known as the great leap forward, the great leap forward। सबसे पहले ये उसने लॉन्च किया। दिस इज द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ कल्चरल रिवॉल्यूशन और परमानेंट रिवॉल्यूशन। ग्रेट लीप फॉरवर्ड किस गोल के लिए लॉन्च हुआ? ट्रांसफॉर्म चाइनीज इकोनॉमी फ्रॉम एग्रेरियन टू इंडस्ट्रियल। दिस was the goal of Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward was to transform Chinese economy from agrarian industrial, right? So unlike most nations which transform from agrarian to industrial on the back of heavy industry, right? Heavy industry मतलब बड़े बड़े इंडस्ट्रियल इंडस्ट्रियल प्लांटेशंस, बड़ी बड़ी इंडस्ट्रियल फैक्ट्रीज वेर एस्टेब्लिश in the societies which wanted to transform from agrarian to industrial. Mao, on the other hand, gave idea of backyard industries. बैकयार्ड इंडस्ट्रीज, ठीक है। बैकयार्ड इंडस्ट्री में जो सबसे अच्छा एग्जांपल है दैट इज बैकयार्ड स्टील फर्नेसेस, ठीक है। बैकयार्ड इंडस्ट्रीज एंड बैकयार्ड स्टील फर्नेसेस, इसमें जो गोल था वो ये था कि पीपल विल प्रोड्यूस स्टील इन देयर बैकयार्ड, ठीक है। सो मोस्ट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन shifted from agriculture to this backyard industries and backyard steel furnaces. So people started producing steel उनके आंगन में, they started producing steel in their backyard. But the issue that happened with backyard steel furnaces was was the output was extremely bad. The steel was not usable, and as most of the people shifted backyard industries, there were less people in agriculture industries. एक बार एग्रीकल्चर में लोग कम हो गए, देयर केम अ फमाइन, ठीक है। फमाइन आया, पीपल स्टार्टेड डाइंग इन मिलियंस, एंड नॉट जस्ट मिलियंस, 15 to 55 million people died during this exercise of Great Leap Forward because one fanatic of a man wanted to increase industrial output using backyard steel furnaces. People in agriculture decreased, and that is why agriculture output decreased, and 15 to 55 million died during this whole exercise, right? And this 15 to 55 million, for the context, in the whole world war, I guess around 1 to 5 million people died, right? This was in World War One. अभी इतना बड़ा पॉलिसी फेलियर हुआ, the big policy failure happened in Great Leap Forward, right? So what Mao does next is, after this great policy failure, people started dissenting, people started talking against policies of Mao's, right? When people started talking against his policies, what does Mao do? Mao launches 100 flowers campaign. The motto of 100 flowers campaign was let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought flourish. Let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought flourish. Basically, he wanted to promote freedom of speech and expression, right? He wanted to promote dissent. So people started dissenting crazy. People started criticizing Mao like anything. So Mao did not like it. So one thing that happened with 100 flowers campaign, his political opponents were silent because Mao was a violent man. Uh, Mao used to suppress the opposition like anything. So political opponents were silent before 100 flowers campaign. Once Mao said, "Let 100 flowers bloom and 100 schools of thought flourish," the people who were against Mao and were silent started speaking up. So when they started speaking up, the when they started speaking up, Mao did not like it. But one thing happened that out of it, that he could recognize his political opposition. Once he recognized his political opposition, he launched cultural revolution. Cultural revolution was nothing but killing mass suppression of criticizers of Mao, political opponents of Mao. He told Chinese people that we are going to suppress we are going to suppress the ideologues, the opposition which is against Chinese communism, and he observes that we are going to suppress bourgeoisie. We are going to suppress bourgeoisie, right? But but what he effectively wanted to suppress was criticism against himself, right? He wanted to suppress criticism against himself, and purged he purged ideas such as capitalist ideas, and he purged traditional elements in Chinese society like Taoism, and it was essentially to get back his hold on power and get back ideas of communism back to public discourse, right? In Cultural Revolution, Mao attacked superstructure elements of superstructure like school, colleges, universities, and tried to suppress opposition against him in media and in curricula, in schools, everywhere. He mobilized youth into red guards to identify opposition and kill them. In Cultural Revolution, it is estimated that around 5 million people died. Right? This was permanent revolution. This was idea of cultural revolution, that dissent should be suppressed whenever it emerges, even though you are in the wrong. Permanent revolution, cultural revolution, right? So this was modifications that were made by Mao in ideas of Marx. So we have covered first influence on him. Marx was first influence on Mao. The second influence was of Machiavelli. Machiavelli's influence on Mao. We see Machiavelli's influence on Mao in his book, The Red Book. In Red Book, he gives strategy of guerrilla warfare, and he glorifies violence as an tactic. Glorifies violence as an tactic. He gives idea of nibbling tick, right? He got influence of nibbling tactic from a rat. समझ I have this piece of bread with me, and there comes this rat. Rat यहाँ पे आके won't attack the center of bread first. He will eat all the crust first, then the inner layer, then the inner layer, then the inner layer, and then he will eat the center of the bread. Right? So understand this in the context of China. Right? Understanding nibbling tactic in the context of China, whereby the Mao suggests we should we should set up mass lines of people mass lines of people, right? मास लाइन्स ऑफ पीपल मतलब क्या? समझ लो ये सिटीज है. दिस इज आई डोंट नो, दिस इज शंघाई, हियर समवेयर इज बीजिंग, दिस इज शेंजन. सो डोंट अटैक सिटीज बट अटैक द रूरल एरियाज अराउंड देम. निबलिंग टैक्टिक में सिटीज को अटैक नहीं करना है, पहले निबलिंग टैक्टिक में पहले रूरल एरियाज को कैप्चर करना है. Once this rural area is captured, then you have enough mass lines of people attack cities and acquire them. This was nibbling tactic. Eating the periphery, eating the rural periphery first, and then attacking the cities. Like rat eats the crust first and then attacks the center. Right? This was the idea of nibbling tactic, and this was the idea of Mao. Another concept, another strategy which he suggests was to advance when enemy is asleep, attack and retreat when enemy attacks. Right. So this was Mao. This was Mao in total. Influence of Mao, the influence of Maoism is seen in various places around the world. In India, it is seen in Naxalism. Naxalism is essentially Maoism applied in Indian Indian sociology, Indian space. Then Nepal had a big history of Maoism. There is shining path of Peru, right? So this was this is influence of Mao in contemporary world. Whenever you see people going against the state and applying violence, applying guerrilla tactics, we see influence of Mao on them, right? Now you can see a question on Mao in context of Gandhi. फ्यूचर का क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, तो आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू कंपैरेटिव एनालिसिस ऑफ गांधी एंड माओ वंस. ठीक है. सिमिलैरिटीज क्या है गांधी और माओ में? सबसे पहला सिमिलैरिटी है दैट दे वेर मास लीडर्स, राइट? They succeeded in their aim. Mao succeeded in his aim of giving independence to China and getting hold of China after civil war. Gandhi succeeded in his aim of gaining independence for India. But जो डिफरेंस है that is in means. For Gandhi, violence belonged to world of animals. He was not Machiavellian at all. He denounced violence at all, and he was the view of satyagraha, civ civ resistance and non cooperation. गांधीयन स्ट्रगल या फिर गांधीयन जो व्यू ऑफ स्टेट है, दैट वाज वेरी इंक्लूसिव ऑफ डिसेंट और फॉलोअर्स एज वेल. सो इंडिया में फेमाइन्स क्यों नहीं आया? इंडिया में फेमाइन्स आए भी तो दे वर इफेक्टिवली मैनेज्ड. क्यों? क्योंकि वी हैड अ इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ गांधी ऑन अस. Mao, on the other hand, did not care about his people's lives. In Great Leap Forward, around 20 million people died. In Cultural Revolution, millions of people died again, but he did not care. On the other hand, Gandhi, Gandhian state was morally good, morally superior, and we do not see a lot of people dying in India due to famines. So this was Mao, and we have finished Orthodox Marxism. I'll see you in the next lecture whereby I start neo Marxism. Bye.